Hello guys, and welcome to this topic review video. Today we are going to talk about the Federalist versus the Anti-Federalist. Last video we talked about all these compromises. So now that the Constitution is quote unquote written, now it's time to ratify. So let's start. Leaders of the Philadelphia Convention had completed the Constitution for the United States of America, but many of the convention members had lingering doubts as to whether the states would approve it. According to the Articles of Confederation, unanimous approval was needed to ratify the Constitution, and convention leaders feared that this was unachievable. Because remember, under the Articles of Confederation, it was deemed that any change of law, any bill that needed to pass, must have unified consensus of all 13 states. The fears of the Philadelphia Convention's members were well founded. Rhode Island so staunchly resisted the idea of a strong central government. So let's pick this out. Rhode Island did not like the idea of a strong central government. The strong central government. Well, their fear is understandable because they did not want a monarchy like the one they escaped from Britain, right? They went so far as to change as to earn the nickname Rogue Island. So Rhode Island was basically going rogue. The diminutive state, fearful of being overwhelmed by a central authority, refused to send delegates to Philadelphia. Although Rhode Island was the state that most vehemently opposed ratification of the Constitution, other states, including New York, Massachusetts, and Virginia, all expressed concerns over a federal union. Since the framers had already decided to discard the Articles of Confederation when drafting the Constitution, they no longer felt bound by its requirement of a unanimous vote for ratification. The delegates agreed that approval from only 9 of the 13 states would be adequate to ratify the United States Constitution. Even with the lower ratification requirements, the framers knew the process would not be easy. In an effort to combat the fear of a large and powerful government, convention leaders decided to set up conventions within each state where people would approve or reject the Constitution. So this was a good idea going in. So basically they will visit every state of our union, 13 states, and ask, approve or deny, and why. The public, expecting a revised version of the Articles of Confederation, was shocked by this document because remember in last discussion we said they were coming in to change the Articles of Confederation, not to toss it. The Philadelphia Convention had been a very private affair, and only the individuals inside the meeting room were aware of the drastic changes that were taking place. At times during the convention, the windows were boarded over to ensure the framers' policy. So the Philadelphia Convention was a very private event. I still don't understand why they did not release this information, but that's something you can research at your own time. But all I know is it was a very secretive event. So when this news did come out, it shocked many people. Public opinions about the Constitution quickly became separated into two camps. The Federalist, the Federalist, and the Anti-Federalist. Anti. So let's break this down. Most Federalists were wealthy, well-educated, and unified by the desire of a powerful, centralized government. So favored they favored the Constitution. Their leaders were usually influential men such as George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. So GW and BF. They were prominent of an orderly, effective government that could protect their economic status. The Federalists were well organized, and in many states they often controlled the election of ratifying conventions with their power and influence. Their opponent, the Anti-Federalists, were generally farmers, debtors, and other lower class people who were loyal to the state government. So they oppose the Constitution, right? Well, actually, we'll figure out in part 2 of this video when we do talk about the Bill of Rights, what their true position is. Anti-Federalist leaders, including Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry, typically enjoyed more wealth and power than the people they led. Henry was notorious for fighting for individual liberties, and one of the primary objectives of the Anti-Federalists had to lack of the Bill of Rights. Lack of Bill of Rights. That was a major issue the Anti-Federalist had with the Constitution. It lacked these individual rights, which would provide basic liberties to the public. They also feared powers that would be assigned to a large central government, especially powers of taxation, because many of them are farmers, and we saw what happened at the Shays' Rebellion. Many anti-federalists believed a republican government could not rule a nation as large as America, since previously republics had only been successful in small regions like Switzerland and the Netherlands. Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay stepped forward with a series of essays designed to alleviate the anti-federalist fears. These essays came to be known as the Federalist Papers, and they were the most influential political writings of the time. Hamilton, Madison, and Jay argued that limitations on governmental power were built into the Constitution with a series of checks and balances. In these essays, they also explained the need for centralized governments so the United States could earn the respect of other countries, because their goal is to be united. I know this is the next topic on our list of A-push topics to cover, but I do want to let you reference this chart that I built, the Federalist, the Anti-Federalist, and say this: America has a two political power party system. Right now it's the Democrats and Republicans. But shocker, back in these days, it was the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist. So even though we'll talk about the development of a two-party system on the next outline, I want to make clear, so you can see that this is shaping up to be two separate political parties. With the assistance of the Federalist Papers, the Federalists were able to break down resistance and gain enough support to ratify the Constitution. The pivotal vote came in June of 1788, when New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify, meeting the criteria required to adopt the Constitution. With this vote, the Constitution went into effect, and the Constitutional Congress respectfully bowed out. The city of New York was selected as the location for the new Congress, and March 4th, 1789 was chosen as a date the new Congress would initially convene. That was when we had the first Congress. I'm not sure I can figure it out, because That's very, what number of Congress? And just for comparison, we're living under the 116th Congress. Every time new lawmakers came, it goes up. Okay. However, even with the ratification of the Constitution, the framers understood that all 13 states needed to accept the laws and boundaries of the Constitution. The Federalists continued to lobby and eventually earned the ratification of Virginia and New York. However, North Carolina and Rhode Island held out until the new Congress had begun its work and had fulfilled its promise to draft a Bill of Rights. We'll talk about the first president of the U.S. You probably know him, George Washington, and the Bill of Rights in part 2 of this outline video. See you guys then.